Good morning. My name is Sister Mary Lechtenberg. I am a member of the pastoral care team here at Mount St. Francis Center. As we gather to honor and to remember Sister Donalda Kehoe, we welcome all of you who've gathered here in the Clare House Chapel, for those who are watching on the in-house system, and the family and friends who are participating by our live stream service. One of 9 children to William Kehoe and Rose Schwenninger, Rosemary was born in 1926. Following her education in Waterloo, she worked in a dress shop and later as a stenographer. After seriously contemplating marriage, the Spirit led her to the Dubuque Franciscans, where she became known as Sister Mary Donalda. Her various ministries led her from Dubuque to Tulsa, to Chicago, to Alaska, and finally back to Dubuque. Donalda continued an adventurous life even in her retirement years, canoeing on the Mississippi, enjoying poetry, writing to many friends on her typewriter, of course, and this enabled her lifelong gift to the congregation, the China story. Donalda indeed marched to her own music, and we will miss her unique spirit, but we know her transformed life in God will be a gift to all those who are welcoming her. Please join in singing number 747, This Is My Song. Number 747, we will sing verse 1.
A reading from Canticle of the Sun by Francis of Assisi. O Lord, most high, omnipotent and good, we honor, praise, and bless you as we should. For you alone can all our service claim, and none is worthy to pronounce your name. To you be praised through all that you have done, by creatures all, and first by brother's son. Of course he is a symbol, beauteous, bright. He makes the day and gives us warmth and light. Praise too from Sister Moon and every star, whom you have made to shine in heaven afar. From brothers wind and clouds, blue firmament, from rain and sunshine, giving nourishment. From Sister Water flowing e'er in haste, for she is useful, humble, precious, chaste. Be praised by Brother Fire, who lights the night, for he is gay and strong, possesses might. By Sister Mother Earth and Brother Air, who gives us life and fruits and flowers fair. Be praised through those who love you and forgive, in every trial and sickness patient live. And blessed are they who all in peace endure, by you will they be crowned and made secure. Even Sister Death to you, my Lord, gives praise, whose summons every living one obeys.
At this time, we invite you to share memories of Sister Donalda. Several have been sent in and will be read by our sisters. A microphone will be brought to you and will be held for you today. So if you remember, please state your name and stand if you are able.
I'm Sister Margaret Wick, and first I have a message from Sister Liz Hilvers, who was here for a long time. Whenever I would walk down the corridor from my office, says Liz, on 3rd floor in Francis' house, I would go past Sister Donalda's room on my way to the elevator. She always kept her door open, so I would observe her sitting at her desk typing on the old manual typewriter. I think O'Toole's office supply store sold her the last of their remaining typing ribbons for her old machine. Some of us remember the journalist, radio host, and national correspondent Edward R. Murrow, who once received the Albert Einstein Award for journalism. He was often pictured sitting at his manual typewriter. As I would pass Sister Donalda's room, I would tease her by calling her the Edwina R. Murray of my world. In fact, after I moved north to Sturgeon Bay, she was one of my chief correspondents, sending me tidbits of interesting facts about some historical community, state, or world event. And always, the letter's envelope had several old commemorative stamps pasted in the upper right-hand corner as postage. Often when I would return correspondence, I would address the envelope to Sister Donalda Kehoe, also known as Edwina R. Murrow. Donalda brought delight and humor to my life. Edward Murrow always closed his radio show with good night and good luck. I would like to say farewell to Donalda with a more Franciscan slant to it. Sister Donalda, pax et bonum, and eternal happiness. You have won the Alberta Einstein Award in my book. I want to just also say I got lots of those little messages also from her. But, I think she corresponded with all kinds of famous people, like people who were poet laureates and that kind of thing. And she did learn to do email in the most recent years because she was communicating with somebody in England. And so that, her communication desire and writing desire forced her never to type, I don't think, on a computer, but to use email.
I'll go this way. When the South whatever was renovated, Donalda was really pissed off. And the way she got rid of it was she wrote about it. It was hilarious how she had her anger expressed. And so anyway, when I moved here, I encouraged her to write. And so I encouraged her to write about the coronavirus, etc. And of course she always wrote long, I will not read it all. She said, as we come to June 29th, 2020, when another visit is scheduled, but it is the afterward I want to address in this essay. Based on earlier visits with Dr. Altive, a gracious, not unhandsome, friendly, knowledgeable, approachable professional that he is, and visits are brief, staccato-like, minimalistic, and for that I would be isolated for 14 days. 14 days in isolation. I would know about Julian of Norwich and Hildegard of Benjamin experienced as anchorites. I could identify somewhat with Rapunzel, a fairy tale by Brothers Grimm, and so forth and so on. Then another letter that she wrote when I invited everybody to come dance by my room. She writes a whole long letter about dancing. Then at the end she said, now this proves that once you realize this letter doesn't really say anything, it's too late to stop. The end.
I'm Sister Camilla Heeman, and I lived with Sister Donalda many years at Xavier and in Emporia, Kansas. And it was the late 60s, and my sister and brother came to visit me Easter week. Sister Donalda had decided to move back to Dubuque on that Friday. So they said, we will take you with us instead of you taking the train. Well, she finally gave in to that. And they said, we can take you all the way to Dubuque. We're going to stay overnight at Iowa City. So we came, and they came, and they got as far as Cedar Rapids, and she said, I'll get off here. So they left her where she said to leave her. She said she would have her cousins bring her back to Dubuque. The next day, I got a call from Xavier saying Donalda arrived per taxi from Cedar Rapids at 11 o'clock at night. Anyway, she said that she didn't know what happened to her cousins, so she got to Dubuque to Xavier and she told the taxi, I have no money, but if you wait here, I'll go get some. So she goes to the Superior, gets the money. No one could ever find out how much that taxi cost. And a number of years ago, my sister, who was part of bringing her to Dubuque that time, her husband died. I received a memorial gift from Sister Donalda at Excel in Morton for $38.65. And in her letter, she said, you probably wonder about the odd cents and all of this, but she said, that is the cost of the taxi when they took me to Dubuque.
Don't look at so close. From Ruth Schaefer, a friend. Sister and I casually met in 1988. We paddled together on the same United Clinical Laboratories Dragon Boat team. Fast forward to February of 2020. I received a letter, my first smile from Sister Donalda. The smile came when I saw the letter was typed in a typewriter. Due to lockdown, we were confined to writing many totally wonderful letters back and forth. Each one was like sharing secrets at a slumber party. So much fun, so meaningful. I was conversing with a witty, profound, and expressive woman. We connected on a deep level and became true friends. She shared with me her life story and touched my heart in many ways. I will save her letters forever. Just before she died, I wrote a final note to her to say goodbye. This is part of what I wrote to her. Of course I am praying for you. That is what God asks of us when friends are departing from each other. Through our letters and times together, you have brought me laughter, joy, understanding, and wisdom. And for that, I truly thank you. You are a wonderful woman of God. You have influenced many lives, including mine, and I will miss you so very much.
I am Sister Janet Heaver-Camp, and I have a note from a niece of Sister Donalda, Jan Holman. In the last letter that I received from Sister, dated January 24th, 2022, Sister wrote, "I am writing very few letters, maybe 1 or 2 a day. Since June 6, 2021, I have written 427 letters, and yours is number 428. I am not trying to set a record, but I need to know to whom and when I've written. I don't need a secretary. I am the secretary." I had sent Sister Donalda a photograph of me sledding with my 2-year-old granddaughter. Sister wrote, "Some mornings I wake up to pristine snow on the ground, and temperatures are keeping it there, like it should. It never seems too cold for kids to go sledding, nor grandmas to bundle up and go too. Sledding is one outdoor sport that has never grown old. How about that? We young sisters assigned to Xavier Hospital had lots of energy even after our workday was over. And we would take a tray from the cafeteria, put a little candle wax on the bottom, and take it out by the creek and slide down the back hill. Yes, in full habit." Sister ended her letter with a postscript. "I'm always disappointed why liars' pants aren't on fire."
My name is Dorothy Swiniger, and Donalda was a cousin of mine. We had a very special relationship. I had connections in my family on my mother's side, but also on my father's side, and she would have been on my father's side. A few of you might remember Sister Floriana Swiniger. She would have been Donalda's aunt and my great aunt. She worked at the orphanage, St. Mary's Orphanage, for over 50 years. I did not really know Donalda very well until I met her in the convent here, partly because her parents moved away from the Epworth-Farley area into Waterloo, and we did not have a lot of contact with them. But I always knew about Sister Florian, and I always kind of knew about Donalda. But here we called each other cousin whenever we met. And I got to know her during her retirement years here, and especially during her months in hospice. I made a special effort to visit her, and we talked about many, many things. I heard a lot of details about her life in Tulsa and Alaska and at the Witness, and about her stamps, and about her correspondence with the laureate, Ted Kooser. And she would write to him. He would sometimes send her his poems before he published them. Donalda did not drive. she walked a lot, and always those walks were adventures. One of the walks that she did when she lived at St. Mary the Angels, she walked across the bridge many, many times to visit her aunt, Carrie, and she got to know her too. I did not really know Carrie very well. Not everything in life was easy for Donalda. She was a very sensitive person, and sometimes I think she felt like she maybe never was acknowledged the way she wished she had been. And there were some hurts in her life because of that. And I was happy that she shared some of them with me. But whenever she got into a situation like that, and somebody already mentioned this, I think it was Kathleen, she knew how to create sort of an alternative life for herself. She had a lot of expectations that life would be full, it would be an adventure, and if it wasn't, she knew how to make another life for herself that was full of adventure. And a lot of that had to do with her writing and connecting with people. Dear cousin, I will miss you very much. Thank you for all you've been for us.
I'm Sister Rosemary, and I have a note here from her niece, Diane Maria Lamonta O'Brien. Sister Donalda was a prolific letter writer and would write even if it was your turn, X5. When asked for advice, she would start her letter with, "Let's get a cup of tea and sit by the fire," so it would be comfortable and comforting decisions, so to speak. She also was of a family history. She also was a font of family history and shared her memories with us. She will be missed.
I'm Sister Elvira, and I have a memory from another niece, Rosemary Kehoe Peacher. On the evening of December 2nd, 2017, I stayed overnight at Clare House visiting Sister Donalda. When I awoke on Sunday morning, December 3rd, I learned from a text message that I had become a grandmother for the first time. Sister Donalda was the first person I told when she came to my room early that morning, and she hugged me like a good mother. Sister outlived the mothers of all her nieces and nephews, and she was a nurturing, kind mother to us all. Thank you, Sister. I love you.
I'm Sister Ellen Nelson, and I have a message from Sharon Miller, a friend in Salem, Oregon. Sister Donalda was a special part of my life since we shared time at St. Mary's Hospital in Emporia, Kansas in the 60s. She was a mentor to me early on and became a dear friend. After I left the community, we shared frequent letters, and eventually my husband and I had her visit Oregon several times. We invited her to join us on a cruise with some extended family around the British Islands. With her wonderful Irish heritage, a highlight of the cruise was time in Ireland. Her cheerfulness, wit, and special presence were very special to us. In her simplicity, nothing was too small to be enjoyed and appreciated. She loved to take walks, delighting in nature's presentations, other than snakes. She had some definite reservations about certain things in her life. My husband had been fishing in the Pacific and brought home a beautiful salmon. We wanted to take a picture of Sister holding it. She insisted we get a Kleenex as she wasn't about to touch that fish. Sister loved to write letters on her trusty old typewriter. If you were blessed to get a letter from her, it was special, descriptive of the proud moments in her life, and usually had a quote in it from some author. lofty thinker, and always some humor or an oxymoron or two. Example, diet ice cream, definite maybe. The joy she spread with words was wonderful. I will always remember feeling very blessed for having her as a very dear friend in my life.
I'm Sister Anne-Marie Dunn, and this is from her nephew, Frank Lamoncia Jr. I know that I will miss Sister Donalda, as will anyone and everyone that ever had contact with this wonderful, lovely lady. One time, Sister Donalda, my sister Diane, my girlfriend Janice, and I went to Yellowstone National Park. We thought it would be fun to take the train from Denver to Salt Lake City and rent a car there. It should have been an 8-hour trip, so we decided to go coach. It turned out to be much longer. After a while, Sister had trouble getting comfortable and ended up lying on the floor. Janice told me I was going to hell for this. While in Jackson, Wyoming, we stayed at a motel that had an iron figure of a wolf howling at the moon. Sister got out of the car, stood next to the wolf, and actually started howling at the moon. This was Sister Donalda.
I'm Nona Meyerhofer. This is a memory from Jake Rosenmeyer, Franciscan associate and friend. Sister Donalda was a great bowler. I went with her and Sister Julie Mondernock a few years ago, and she had so much joy in being able to bowl at her age. Another thing that always struck me about her was her knowledge of a God who loved her and created everything. Often on the return label of an envelope that she would put her name, address, country, and finally the world. She knew God was responsible for so many great things that came out when talking to her and spending time with her. I will miss her correspondence and her friendship.
I am Sister Ruth Ellsburn from Bob Junk, Sister's oldest nephew. They were only 9 years apart in age. When Sister Donalda was a young nun, some of the extended family drove to Dubuque from the Waterloo area to have a potluck picnic with her on the grounds of St. Francis Convent. Sister asked what she could bring. They suggested nothing. She wanted to bring something. The family suggested maybe refreshments, like some Kool-Aid. On the appointed afternoon, Sister joined the group with no drinks. When asked, "Where is the Kool-Aid?" Sister reached inside a pocket and pulled out a dry package of Kool-Aid, no water. This from a young woman who had never cooked or made Kool-Aid for herself or anyone else. I am blessed to have lived closely with Sister Donalda for 76 years. An early memory I have was in the novitiate. We had made vows, and so we wore our cord with our 3 reminders of vows, and a small scapular every night. One evening when I left the room, Donalda living aside of me, with just a curtain in between, I came back, and it made such a deep impression on me because I found my night cord on the bed forming the word love. poetically, I'll give you some more thoughts. This is addressed to Donalda. Your wit, your quotes, your jokes are missed. No typing in your place. All 76 blessed years of grace, our lives were together laced. I entered the door and Donalda followed me on August 25th, 1945. And so we always joked about our numbers, our laundry numbers. I'm 1118 and she's 1119.
My name is Sister Sally Mitchell. I have here a saying. It says, my name is Paul Stevens, and I am a retired journalist who worked 36 years with the Associated Press. Since 2013, I have published a daily newsletter for AP, former and retired and active duty journalists around the world. I can thank Jan Holman and my wife Linda for getting to know Sister Donalda. Jan is her niece, and Jan and Linda were high school classmates at Castle Bluffs Thomas Jefferson High School. They have stayed in touch over the past 57 years. A few years ago, Jan told me about her aunt, Sister Donalda, and her love of writing and of the typewriter. I sent Sister a couple issues of my retiree newsletter, and she joined the group immediately and has contributed great stories and several of her acrostics to the light of the 1,800 who subscribe. I remember her saying of her typewriter, not only do I use one, I have all but become identified with it as a conversation piece in an era when communication devices are getting smaller day by day. I know her trusty royal typewriter is silent now, but if a heavenly body could bring the keyboard to life one more time, it would say, well done, good and faithful servant. Because thou hast been faithful over a few things, I will set thee over many things. Enter now into the joy of your Lord.
I'm Sister Lois Erpelding, and I have memories from Sister Lene Rubley. Sister Donalda was a very valuable person on 3rd floor Main in Francis House. In 2015, there were 20 of us on that floor. Sister was very creative. She taught us about interesting things, including dragon boat races. On our birthdays, Sister Donalda would have a creative opportunity for us. She would always have something fun for us to do. She would ask us questions like, name all the states that begin and end with a vowel. There are 7 of them, Iowa being one of them. She would do creative things for our minds, and I really enjoyed that.
I'm Sister Mary Colleen, and I'm reading a note from Claire Van Lint, who is a Franciscan friend. When I had to close the dwelling place in Mississippi because of the pandemic, I knew I had to write the history of God's work there those 33 years. I came to Dubuque and now live in Alverno. I heard that Sister Donalda had written a history about the Franciscan sisters in China and asked her if she would help me. I would write 2 chapters, then send them to her to critique them for me. We continued that collaboration for 33 chapters. Her help was invaluable to me. Then I asked, who did she get to publish her book? And she said, Sister Maureen Leach did it for me, and Sister Maureen told me she contacted a company who helped them self-publish it. But that company had been bought out by Amazon and now had a different name. I have been working with that company for many months through many errors and much pain. Now that Sister Donalda is in the presence of truth itself, I ask her to intercede for us to get the history of the book, quote, "The Dwelling Place, Miracle of God's Love in Mississippi," unquote, published as God desires. Thank you, Sister Donalda.
I'm Sister Janet Taphorn, and I'm reading a note from Allison Holman, who is her great niece. Sister Donalda made sure that she made me feel special. And I know that everyone here would say the same thing. I imagine that it had to do with her incredible capacity for listening and loving. She loved us all so well and truly listened when we spoke or wrote to her. She loved to share her own stories, of course, mostly about the plants that she was caring for and the sweets that she recently enjoyed. But she also took every morsel of information I ever gave her and stored it away so that her next correspondent had a pointed question or a relevant story. An elderly nun who certainly knew nothing about 90s grunge music found and sent me an article about my favorite band, Pearl Jam, being introduced into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Using these information morsels she gathered, she wrote the most beautiful acoustic poem for my daughter, who she had to wait 2 years to meet because of COVID. A poem that shows how she truly knew me. I loved our visits where I was paraded around the convent and introduced to everyone, and then given a seat of honor at the lunch table. And though I know full well that every one of her visitors got this treatment, I still felt most loved. That was her superpower, right? 95 is a good long life, and she lived hers well. 95 still feels too short for someone so wonderful, so loving, and so loved.
I have a note here from Sister Millie Lumberger. Some years ago, Donalda was my prayer partner. Letters and inserts came my way on a regular basis. When I came to Dubuque, I would stop and visit with her. Many times I brought her canceled stamps, for which she was most grateful. I learned how she processed them and how valuable some of them were. It was always a joy to be with her.
Sister Teresa Jungers, and this is from Dennis, her nephew, and his wife Dixie. We love to take Sister Donalda to concerts at the Diamond Joe Casino in Dubuque, but only if we could get front row seats. On December 15, 2013, Sister was seated front row center for a John Tesh Christmas show. Halfway through the concert, John introduced a song, came down from the stage, looked over the front row, stood right in front of Sister, and asked her to dance with him. She jumped up, walked on the stage, and slow danced with John Tesh. They chatted quietly with each other, and soon John's head jerked back in surprise. After the song had finished, John, somewhat in shock, announced to the audience, "I have been doing this for 20 years, and never until tonight have I slow danced with a woman who whispered in my ear, 'I'm a Franciscan nun.'" After the audience laugh died down, John walked Sister back to her seat, returned to the stage, looked at Sister and said, "I don't know your name or what I should even call you. Your Eminency?" Sister slowly and clearly said, "My name is Sister Donalda Kehoe." On the way home, Sister was bubbling over with excitement and said, "What are we going to do next? I am all wound up." She later told us that it took her many hours to fall asleep that night.
My name is Sister Kathy Knipper, and I have a memory from her niece, Mary Beth. Sister Donalda loved Dairy Queen. One hot summer evening several years ago, Sister and I went to the 16th Street Dairy Queen and ordered ice cream cones. I gave Sister hers, and during the time it took me to pay, she disappeared. While trying to find her, I noticed a commotion, and I knew that Sister was probably in the middle of it. Apparently, according to Sister, she had tripped on an inappropriately placed step and fallen. By the time I got to her, a couple of gentlemen had helped her up while several bystanders ensured she was okay. I looked at Sister Donalda and said, "I can't take you anywhere, can I?" She replied a bit indignantly, "Well, that's not really important. What matters is I lost my cone." To which a little boy said as he tried to hand Sister his, "You can have mine." She graciously said no, that she was sure the cone I had in my hand was for her, which ultimately it was. We laughed all the way back to the convent, each telling our own version of the story, which got better with each rendition. I think this story epitomized Sister. She was always fun, no matter where we were. She brought out the best in people, and she loved to laugh. We will all miss Sister. Laughing with her will be what I miss most. Stay out of trouble, Sister, though I know you won't. Love, Mary Beth.
I'm Sister Brenda, and I have a memory here from Charlene Kehoe, Donalda's niece. One of my favorite memories of Sister Donalda was written by her. After a year at a job, one knows the routine and settles in. That's when seeing a bank statement for his parish, I asked Father Ralph if he would like me to do that for him. "Yes, I hate bookkeeping," he responded, and I happily set to doing that once a month task. Soon I was approached with, "Would you mind doing my collection too?" "Well, you might as well record it then also." "Oh, why not make out the bank deposit along with it?" "Oh, and at the end of the year report. A vigorous yes to all these suggestions, as I really like bookkeeping. Eventually, one final question. "Would you mind doing my personal checkbook?" And so it came to be that I was actually the somewhat secretary at his parishes of St. Teresa, Lamont, and Assumption, Zwiggle. And I never saw either place.
I'm Sister Pat, and I have a memory from her niece, Ray Kehoe. I traveled with my cousins, Jan and Craig Holman, to Dubuque to visit Sister, and she firsthand what her life was like. This was in 2021, when we had just celebrated the life of Donna Pont. 2 days ago, I expressed to Rosie how great Sister looked then, and how quick-witted and spunky she was. She shared with us one of her word puzzles, memorandums, that she had made in dedication of Donna's life. As with all of these memoirs that Sister created, the deep reflection of caring and gratitude embraced with love shone through. This was how Sister approached everything in life, from a simple flower to an appreciation of a mother duck that found its way into the protected courtyard of their Blessed Clare house, to give back its ducklings for the sisters to rejoice in. That in itself feels like a bit of an analogy of what rejoicing there was in heaven. We shared the news with our pastor here, and he had stopped us and prayed for her. I said, now that they're all together, I am sure there was a banquet in heaven. Probably typing too. And for that, we rejoice.
I'm Maureen Leach, Franciscan, and this is from Patricia Kehoe, her niece. Sister Donalda was not just an excellent writer, she was also an avid reader. Each time she received Yankee Magazine, a subscription I gave to her as a gift each year, she would write a letter sharing excerpts of her favorite stories and poems from the current issue. In a letter dated December 20th, Sister Donalda wrote, "When the Yankee Magazine is brought with the mail, I set everything aside, slip into the big chair, and open the book for entertainment. I may be surrounded by things to do, projects half finished, a piece of candy waiting to be eaten, or a half glass of ice water, but the magazine gets priority over all that and over the rest of the mail." There you have it, a description of me, Sister Donalda, the person who writes the remainder of this letter to you. Sister's words express not only her enthusiasm for the printed word, but her ability to focus on what really mattered in her life. I always envied her ability with both, and will miss her forever.
I'm Sister Maxine, and this is a memo from her nephew, Don La Mancha. The best memory of Sister that I have is when she wrote that she got to dance with John Tesh. She said of all the people there, he asked her to dance. She said he was very nice looking and was a good dancer. In August of 2021, she told me she watched the White Sox and Yankees play in the Field of Dream. I think she watched it on TV. Kevin Costner was there, and she said he was really nice looking. I wrote back to her and told her, I think you have a crush on Kevin Costner. What is John Tesh going to think about that?
I'm jealous. Wouldn't it be wonderful to dance with John Tesh? So thank you for sharing all these stories, for all that you sent in to us. I'm sure it sparked other memories that we have, and we'll continue to share those as the days and weeks go on. And so we pray, Creator of all life and giver of all gifts, our faith speaks of life that is not ended, but life that is transformed. We are secure in our hope that Donalda's spirit lives on into a richer life. We pray this in the name of Jesus. Please join in our closing hymn, Again, this is our song, number 747, 747, and we will sing verse 3 at this time. As we leave this remembering service, we leave to one of Donalda's favorite pieces of music, which she requested for this time, Rhapsody in Blue, ordinarily played by full orchestra, but we will listen with a single piano. So God bless you. Have a wonderful rest of the day.